Okay, the whole war on Iran has just turned on a dime.
The Iranian foreign minister on X says that the Strait of Hormuz is open for all commercial vessels.
This represents the single most important climb down we've seen from Iran since the start of the war. Reopening the strait gives permission to all those tankers carrying 20% of the world's oil to start delivering again already. And Trump announced the same. Iran has just announced that the Strait of Hormuz, whatever, the strait is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. To which global markets replied in unison, we believe you. Just look at the international benchmark price of oil, plunging more than 10% on that big dip there, on the hope that maybe this is the beginning of the end of the war. Let's talk about that. It might be, but simply saying the strait is fully open and ready for full passage does not make it so. Reality will lag behind, and I can show you how. So, problem number one. The Strait of Hormuz is very possibly booby-trapped. The U.S. has long suspected Iran has laid mines in the strait, and Iran is known to have thousands of mines. The Maham 1 floats underwater at a set height. You touch those contact horns, primer blows, you have a severely damaged ship. The Maham 2, these don't float. They stick to the seabed, and they listen. They work because ships, especially big ones like oil tankers and destroyers, they generate magnetic fields. They make noise, they displace water, they change the water pressure around them. And so these smart mines have sensors that detect these things, and once they found a target, they explode. Now, there's a clue in Iran's announcement that should make the world very nervous because it alludes to this threat. The Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open, but specifically on the coordinated route as already announced. We know what this route is because Iran has not only published it explicitly to avoid possible collisions with naval mines, it has also reportedly profited from it, charging some ships in the millions of dollars simply to transit through. So here's the first reason we have to be careful when we hear that the strait's fully open and ready for full passage. The old route, before it was possibly laced with mines, was wider, better established, better known, better understood. The new route, much narrower, pulls traffic much closer to Iranian shores. And if you're hidden in the mountains with a shoulder-mounted rocket, proximity is leverage for anyone questioning whether Iran is still in control of the strait.
One of the various most important conditions that's attached here is the full supervision of the Iranian armed forces over the passage and movement of ships through the strait.
This is far from what we would normally consider open in terms of free flow of maritime commerce, freedom of navigation, and consistent with the laws of transit passage.
Now, Donald Trump has floated a possible way out where the U.S. military has either already or is about to remove all mines in the strait, but he doesn't quite seem sure which. And that raises a very, maybe more important second point, which is for all those ship captains out there, who wants to go first? I've said this a bunch of times before, and I'll say it again. The Strait of Hormuz was never closed to begin with. What keeps ships out is the dollars and cents of risk.
We think a lot about the mines and the military threat, but one of the biggest concerns for these shipping companies is insurance. Are these ships approved to go through the Strait of Hormuz? And until they are, until the insurance companies sign off on them, none of them are going to move.
And that risk doesn't just evaporate just because Iran, or even the US for that matter, says, come on in, the water's fine. The reopening of the strait is predicated on a very tenuous ceasefire just agreed to between Lebanon and Israel. Their timelines are one and the same. Once one ends, so does the other. And Trump knows it. The Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business, he says, while at the same time maintaining the US naval blockade on Iranian ports in full force until some kind of deal can be set in stone, which, I should just point out, is itself a provocative enough position to apparently jeopardize reopening the strait before hardly anyone's even had a chance to go through. For all of the US government's pronouncements about winning the war,
Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory.
What the Secretary of War and others have so far failed to do for the companies that ship billions of dollars of energy each day is instill confidence. That would require those shipping companies to truly believe that the Strait will be safe for at least weeks, not hours.
That can happen really one of two ways. Either there'll be a ceasefire on terms that everyone in the region agree to, Iran, US, GCC countries. The market will see that and they'll say it's safe to go. So a ceasefire, I think that has to involve freedom of navigation, unrestricted flow. Or if we don't get to a ceasefire, the US military will forcibly open up the strait.
In short, that's a high bar you don't reach with just an announcement.
This could be short-lived. This could be something that could change tomorrow. And that's another problem of the uncertainty here. Things are being changing so fast that there's no feeling that whatever is being advertised is actually going to hold for long.
But let's stop being so negative. Let's say this time is different. We believe, for argument's sake, that the war is coming to an end. There's still one more problem. What I think is very easy to forget about the way global oil shipping works is that these aren't just taps you turn on and off. CNN's estimate, about 20,000 sailors and 2,000 ships carrying around 21 billion liters of oil are stuck. That's approaching a month's worth of product that needs to sail the strait yesterday.
This is going to be a massive undertaking because it's this tiny little narrow strait, and you'll have ships going one or two at a time, and you've got hundreds of ships on either side of the Strait of Hormuz. The empty ones trying to get in, the full ones trying to get out, and they're going to have to wait in line.
The best analogy I can think of is that getting oil flowing again is less like flipping a light switch and more like restarting highway traffic after a pileup. It's slow because there are all those ships, but also all the infrastructure that fills those ships with product.
The countries that have shut down their oil fields, like Saudi Arabia and UAE, can say, okay, let's begin the multi-month process of bringing up our fields. But a country like Iraq doesn't have good options. Kuwait doesn't have good options to redirect their flow. They've had to shut down much more of their crude production. And in some cases, some of those fields are old and they will be difficult, a little more challenging to restore to production once this lifts.
Yes, even if tankers start moving en masse immediately, refineries have been damaged or shut down. Production has been put on pause. Buyers have already scrambled for alternatives. Just like highway traffic, every system, every car restarts and accelerates unevenly, even when everything's open again. Any full recovery here is going to be a phased recovery that experts worry could take years.
Just the repairs to the refining and port infrastructure in the region, that's months rather than weeks, and some of it is semi-permanent.
The whole world right now, whether you're an energy importer, whether you're an insurance broker for ships, or you're an exporter of shipping coming through that strait, it's not ever going to be the same again. People have woken up that Iran, if it decides to, very cheaply can hold the world's financial markets at immense risk.
So before the world starts counting its chickens, counting down to the end of the war, it's helpful to remember that for all the gut punches Iran has taken in this war, it has shown through its leverage in the Strait of Hormuz what it looks and feels like when it fights back. And that hasn't changed. Iran hasn't reopened anything that it can't just as quickly close once again.